Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, opposition demands information on donated ventilators. Opposition spokesman on health Dr. Alfred Dawes is calling for the Ministry of Health to state the whereabouts of 105 ventilators that were donated to the government. In a media release on Thursday, Dawes said the ventilators were provided through the efforts of the private sector organization of Jamaica, the European Union, and the concerned private individuals in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. While not intending to politicize recent tragedies affecting public health system users, the opposition reminds the government that mismanagement and corruption in the health sector is paid for in human lives. Despite the increase in the Ministry of Health and Wellness budget, the allocation and the misallocation of funds have left the Jamaicans feeling worse off than before the pandemic, which saw the most significant increase in healthcare spending in a generation, Dawes says. Dawes further states, "I wish I didn't have to comment on the stories circulating on social media, but it must be said that these unfortunate yet expected consequences stem from the reluctance to take the hard road of reforming the entire public health system." He says that the opposition continues to advocate for a holistic review of the healthcare system rather than focusing solely on mega projects. He adds that training healthcare workers and expanding their numbers are essential to ensuring the proper staffing of new and renovated facilities. As it stands today, the Western Children's Hospital will suffer the same fate as the Chapelton Hospital, a beautiful building devoid of patients due to insufficient staff to run the facility, Dawes asserts. "We must recruit, develop and retain staff to run our ICUs, emergency services, hospitals and clinics while providing them with the necessary tools to deliver the services Jamaicans desperately need," he adds. The news reported on Thursday that a mother had been left agonizing over the death of her newborn, who doctors at the Mapen Hospital in Clarendon struggled to keep alive because there was no ventilator. Meanwhile, on Monday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said he ordered a high-level probe into the death of the woman who was admitted to the Falmouth Hospital in Trelawney. The probe follows complaints on social media from family members who have alleged negligence on the part of the hospital. Investigators still awaiting DNA from skeletal remains thought to be of Daniel Anglin. Investigators say they are still awaiting the result of DNA tests to determine whether skeletal remains found in bushes in Clarendon last week are those of missing school teacher Daniel Anglin. The remains were found in Salt River. A senior investigator told the news on Thursday that they are awaiting the lab results to determine whether the remains are those of the missing teacher. The 29-year-old teacher was last seen on May 13 when she left home in Helsher St. Catherine for work at the St. Peter Claver Primary School in St. Andrew. She was reportedly abducted after boarding a vehicle connected to a ride-hailing company. Meanwhile, the suspect held in connection with the alleged abduction and the killing of the teacher remains in custody. Last week, a judge ordered that he should remain in custody following an application by the police. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey had reported that the suspect gave a statement to the police admitting his involvement in the disappearance of Miss Anglin. He said the suspect was involved in sexual offenses both in Jamaica and another Caribbean country. Two accused in murder of Tashawn Patterson and Saroya Paulwell get legal representation. Legal representation for David Smith, the man accused of killing Tashawn Patterson and her 10-month-old daughter, Saroya Paulwell, who she shared with a Member of Parliament Philip Paulwell, has been settled. Mr. Smith is now represented by Franklin Grenion. This was announced in court on Thursday. In March, then Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, declared that her office will be seeking the death penalty for Mr. Smith. His co-accused, B. John Black, who was also unrepresented, is now being represented by Tamika Harris. Prosecutors are alleging that Mr. Smith was the triggerman and that Mr. Black gave him the gun to shoot Miss Patterson and her baby. The prosecution also alleged that Mr. Smith, while at the scene of the murder, sent a picture of the mother and the child via phone to Leoda Bradshaw on her request. The bodies were thereafter burnt at the scene. Ms. Bradshaw's cousin Roland Balfour is also charged. 10-month-old Soroya and her mother were abducted from their home in St. Andrew on Saturday, September 9 last year. Their burnt remains were later found buried in a section of East Kingston. In the meantime, Ms. Bradshaw's attorney Deborah Martin gave the news an update following Thursday's proceedings, as the media were not allowed inside the courtroom.
There was discussion about disclosure and where we're at, and timelines have been given for when that should be settled, and all should be done for us to come back to court on the 18th of July 2024. Hopefully by then we will be able to make case management orders, indictment settled and served, all outstanding material disclosed, and anything that the defense might request or require arising from that which is disclosed would have been asked for. So hopefully by then we'll be able to have meaningful case management and a trial date set.
Phillips calls for update on proposed ban on ride-hailing apps. Shadow Minister of Transport Michael Phillips has called for Transport Minister Darrell Vaz to provide the country with an immediate update on the proposed 12-month ban on ride-hailing apps announced in Parliament on June 4. The immediate proposed ban came in response to safety concerns for commuters and some of the companies operating outside of the country's regulatory framework. Stakeholders had also expressed their frustration about being undercut. Mr. Vaz indicated that there would be a meeting with the entities that week to establish some guidelines. Mr. Phillips says an update is necessary in light of a complaint received from one of the complainant companies that it was the only one whose app had been blocked, putting it at a serious disadvantage. The Shadow Minister says he has also independently confirmed that commuters were still able to access services via the platforms of at least two of the overseas companies, which he describes as a mockery of the much-vaunted ban. He says it is fundamentally important that the policy be implemented transparently and that it is respectful of the rights of all companies, particularly those which were operating in accordance with the local regulations. Mr. Phillips further argues that the government could no longer delay a fresh look at the existing transport policy and rules which govern the sector, as all stakeholders were now unhappy. Calls are renewed for stoplights at the St. Catherine intersection after pedestrian's death. The recent death of 20-year-old Brittany Hunter has renewed calls for a stoplight to be placed at the Brunswick Avenue and Winterspen Road intersection in St. Catherine. Councillor Patricia Harris of the Angels Division made the call at the monthly general meeting of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation on Thursday. The death of this young woman is still fresh and heartrending for many. It was revealed to me that Hunter's death is the fourth such at the location, therefore the stoplights are necessary, she said. The councillor said that the corridor is heavily used and pointed to several institutions in the general area, including the G.C. Foster College of Physical Education and Sport, Business Processing Outsourcing Operations, and other commercial entities. The area is really in need of protection from future accidents, injuries, and the loss of lives, said Councillor Herbert Garriquez. About 8:37 a.m. on May 31, Hunter, a customer service representative, was attempting to cross the busy thoroughfare when she was hit by a truck. She was pronounced dead at hospital. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.